Downtown Sarnia, which is, as you know, one of my favorite places to walk about and visit. And this is an interview that I've had on my list for quite some time, and I feel the timing's been right, and I'm very grateful that he said yes. The Honorable Mayor Mike Bradley, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Dave.
Honorable Mayor Mike,
that's fine.
Mike, and a whole bunch of names, right?
Yeah. The official thing is Your Worship, which I do not like.
Yeah.
And in fact, I was being introduced in London, a big conference about 3 months ago, and myself and the mayor of Kitchener both said, don't use the Your Worship. Just treat us as human beings.
Doesn't that feel like getting down on your knees kind of thing?
I understand why it's there. I mean, historically, the reason it's there, respect, but also back hundreds of years ago, the mayor was the chief magistrate. He actually dealt with people stealing horses and petty crime and stuff. So that's where it came from. And if you look even at the Sarnia Council Chamber, it does look a bit like a courtroom.
Yeah,
where you've got
the layout
where the mayor sits and all that. So it's an honor. I don't dismiss the title, but I prefer just to deal with people as people.
Yeah, for sure. And at the same, brings everybody to the same level, right? Your journey on this planet began, I believe, 1955, July 20th, in Adelaide, Australia.
That's right. Was born there, but grew up 200 miles north of there.
Okay.
A little town called Jamestown. And I used to get a laugh out at county council when I first went there. They'd say, "Oh, you wouldn't understand, small towns and communities." We were so isolated back then. We didn't have television at the time.
Right.
We had radio. The water was shipped in. It was a very dangerous area to live in.
Okay.
The heat, even at Christmas, was 40 Celsius. Almost everything in Australia, they can kill you.
Okay.
Spiders and sharks.
Oh, yeah, right.
And,
I guess we don't think about that around here. Right?
Everything else that moves is of concern, right?
Yeah.
And when you're a kid, though, it's funny because you don't even think about that, right? No, you go pick up the big rock with all the snakes under it, and you think, "Oh, that's funny." But it was interesting because you were really isolated as a person. And one of the things when I was probably 2 or 3, we didn't have a library, so we used to send away for books. I would get these huge packages of books because the books, to me, were the lifeline. They opened the entire world to you, right? And using your imagination and your skills. My dad was a baker. He was from Northern Ireland. My mother was from Northern Ireland. They left Northern Ireland just before I was born because of the Troubles, and one of them was Catholic and one was Protestant.
Wow.
And it was the second time they left Ireland to go to Australia. And they were there for 2 years, and there used to be a thing called the 10-pound migrant program, which meant if you paid 10 pounds in England, Ireland, Scotland, you could go to Australia for 2 years. You had to say you were going to stay there 2 years. But it was a way of getting more immigrants there, which is what they needed. But when they went there the first time, it was a very harsh place. They were actually living in a place called Jepp's Cross, which were metal Quonset huts. Can you imagine? No air conditioning in Australia. So it was harsh there the first 2 years. They went back to Ireland and they realized it wasn't going to get better. So then they came back to Australia where I was born, and we were there probably 11, 12 years. And again, my dad worked as a baker in that very harsh climate. My mother was running the local store in a town of 700 people. What I always found amusing was they told me there was 700 people, and I think there was 9 pubs.
Right.
So they had their priorities.
Right.
They had their priorities. And one thing you'll find is the Australian personality. They're very outgoing people. And I'll say that one thing that sticks with me to this day, tips are still not seen as something you do in Australia. That means you're better than someone. They also have this philosophy about the tallest poppy. If you're the tallest poppy, they will cut it down if you think you're beyond other people.
Right.
And I see that daily in what I deal with in my present life. But it was a tough place to live. I learned a lot, and I also, the reading was the most important. Reading and reading and reading. And then we left Australia and went to Ireland, to a little town called Bangor, Northern Ireland, just 12 miles east of Belfast. It's sort of the Grand Bend of Northern Ireland. Beautiful seaside town. We were there for a year. And then, this is just when the Troubles started, that led to 30 years of bombings and
North
assassinations.
And south, so to speak.
Yep, it was not a good situation. So we didn't know a soul. They decided the journey back to Australia was too long and probably too expensive, so they chose Canada. So we arrived here on March the 14th, 1966. We landed at Moulton Airport at the time, now Pearson. We didn't know a soul. And we took a train to Woodstock, where my dad had found a job at a bakery. And we were there probably not 9 months. Then he found a job here in Sarnia and came here. And that's when we moved to Sarnia, probably 67, around that time period. And there was a different time here at that time. The community was heavily polluted. You could tell which plant was operating that day. It was also, the offset on that was it was also the highest per capita income city in Canada in those days.
Oh, wow.
Because the valley was very prosperous. The $10 bill on my desk there, the famous one, that recognized the valley and how important it was to the Canadian economy. So it was an interesting time to be here, and it was, but it gave me a different perspective because there was 2 or 3 other kids at school when I came to St. Peter's that were from either Italy or Australia or someplace, right? South Africa. So we were the new kids. We were the ones that talk funny.
Oh, yeah.
And I actually...
You had the accent.
I had the accent. The luck of the Irish. I worked hard to lose it. I wanted to get that broadcasting accent.
Oh, yeah.
And I managed, I think, successfully to do that. And as soon as I got rid of the Australian accent, it became extremely popular.
Oh, yeah.
with isolate. Like, where's this going to take us? And what really adds to the story is, so my dad got a job at IGA Bake at the store, which is where the Zellers Plaza was. And there was Zellers and IGA. Right now where the Dawson family's redeveloped, where there's coffee culture and Tepperman's and that place. Right? So he got a job there. And within 2 or 3 weeks, the employees went on strike. That's the luck of the Irish, right? But and there was a strike that lasted 6 months.
I thought the luck of the Irish was more positive.
Well, usually it is. Actually, it is a positive story. So he was leading, he got involved in the union, and he was leading the union and on the strike, and 6 months was pretty tough. But from that, he emerged as a union leader. He continued as a baker, but over time, he became president of the Labor Council for many years, led the Labor Day Parade. Also, got very, because he recognized, and this is really significant, he recognized in the 90s there was something wrong here. He was helping a lot of people for free. He refused any compensation with workman's comp claims from exposure to asbestos and other things in the workplace. And he knew there was something wrong. So he eventually went to Windsor and talked to the occupational health group there, Jim Brophy. And he brought them to Sarnia. And they came as a part-time office. I believe it was over on Mitten. And now there's a full-time big office over on in Point Edward there on Kendall. But it helped hundreds, if not thousands of people deal with occupational health, and particularly women who were widowed because of exposure in the workplace. And also tell you over time, people didn't like to talk about that. They wanted to talk about good stuff.
Right.
But it was a reality. These people, and some of the women that were exposed to cancer, they simply washed their husbands' clothes when they came home from work. And they were exposed to fiberglass. And I got to be really fair here. Fiberglass in the 50s and 60s was seen as this wondrous material that could do all these things. Then we learned over time it damages your lungs, and exposure will lead to your death. I've always been very proud of the fact that we now have a monument on the waterfront to the injured workers who lost their lives, because the community's evolved to say you should not lose your life for your employment to feed your family.
Absolutely.
So it was a profound shift for him to move into that. And the legacy exists there still today with the Injured Workers Monument, which we're renewing and hopefully will be reestablished this year. The Labor Day Parade, to me, which is the oldest in the country, symbolizes, I know you did some coverage of it.
123 years. Right?
It's amazing. But out of that, going back to you're talking about the history of the Labor Day Parade, a very strong labor movement emerged. And a group of people, and there were strikes here in the 50s and 60s where people were progressively trying to make advances, more pay, more benefits. But the strikes were rare compared to the way the community and the companies would respond. Even to this day, we have this reputation of being heavily unionized, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I'd say half the major companies aren't unionized. They just match what the union companies are offering, and that's good labor relations. So labor's been a huge part of this community's growth, and that's why I liked, when I'm speaking out of town, we're one of the few communities in Canada that has an economic development organization, SLEP, that has both business, labor, and First Nations on it. That's remarkable, because usually it's just business and business.
Well, and that's inclusive to everybody around here in our community, right? And I mean, it's a great story for somebody like your father, meaning like, coming from another country to get into that labor situation very quickly, and to be recognized as a leader I think that kind of stands out to like who your father was.
Yeah, I appreciate that. We still deal with people that have been impacted by his work and legacy. But I think the important thing is, and I've strongly preached this over the years, is that cooperation between business and labor, and it's strong.
Yeah. Coming from that, the word you talked about, inclusive, in there, that's something that, before inclusivity and accessibility, I want to come to that point that you supported. But your first taste of politics, at least I think probably on an official document, was 1985, I think, when you were an alderman.
Yeah.
And that was, you were an executive assistant, I think, to Bud Allen, was it?
Bud Cullen, who was MP for the area. And
what made, sorry, just before you tell that story, like, what made you say politics?
Well, nothing. No, nothing. I mean, it was like most people in life. If you have a master plan, good luck with that.
Right.
It's the reality of life. But I ran my first campaign when I was 14. I ran a successful campaign for a candidate for Sarnia Council.
At 14, you were running for council?
No, I wasn't. I was running someone else's campaign.
Oh, okay, right.
And then I was running other campaigns. I ran provincial, municipal, and federal, always in the back room. And I learned the skill of being organized. And that's all it is. It's organization and strategy. So I was doing that. And then in 1980, Bud Cullen had been the MP from 68 to 79 when the Liberals got tossed out and Joe Clark was elected. And then there was a miracle that Trudeau came back in 80. But I ran that federal campaign in 80 for Bud Cullen, and we were successful. We had lost by 2,200. We won by 2,200. And I got credit for the success, which really wasn't true. It was basically the 2,200 that went against us came back to us. But then he made an offer to me. I was working at the Dow warehouse for a couple of years. He said, "Do you want to come to Ottawa?" And so, well, it's really not my area, and it's not my skill, and I'm not political. He said, "You can come. You can work 2 hours a week, or you can work 200." And it was, obviously, I worked the 200. It was a real opportunity. I mean, imagine when you're in your early 20s, you're on Parliament Hill, you're working for an MP who was highly respected.
Yeah.
And so I got exposed to politics at a high level. In that time period, I was working in Ottawa. Marcel Sadi, who was the mayor from 80 till 87 when he died, 88, he was running first time in 1980 for mayor. He'd been on council. And Marcel was a feisty character. He was very bright.
My mother loved him.
He was a great guy. And I didn't really know him, but he went to the Liberals and said, can they borrow me? And I came back and ran the campaign. And he won by 800 votes. It was tight. I was against a name you may be familiar with, David Burrows. He beat him for mayor.
Yeah.
In 82, there was another campaign against him. I came back again to run that campaign, and he was successful. I did sort of run the 85 campaign, but that was the campaign I also was running for council as an alderman. So I'd had all that exposure and experience, but what it did, it gave me interaction with a lot of people most people wouldn't be dealing with, in the sense of getting to know them, doing all those things. So it opened up a lot of opportunities. And then in 85, after I ran in 84 for the federal Liberals, we got clobbered across the country. It was the worst defeat in Liberal history. We only had 40 seats. Wow. So at one point I went out and ran a campaign provincially in Lambton County, and the Liberals hadn't won there in 45 years. And we won. So I had that history and understanding campaigns. So in 85, if the opportunity came along, I put my name forward, and remarkably, this had never happened before, I topped the polls. In those days, it was like, you just picked your 8 out of 25. And my own belief was the reason I topped the polls was simple. Because I'd ran the year before, I was young, people seemed to like me, they just didn't like my politics that time in the Liberals. So that boosted me to the top, which, by the way, created a lot of issues when I got on council.
Yeah.
When you top the polls, especially in that setup, everyone was firing at you, right?
There's an expectation that's set as well, I'm sure, right?
Yeah, and there's also, going back to our tallest poppy, let's bring down the tallest poppy.
Right.
So I had a few dust-ups over the years.
Well, a dog doesn't chase a parked car, Mike.
No, true,
right?
true. It's true.
But as a young man, let's talk about the emotions and the dealing with that, trying to be chopped down as the tallest poppy. I mean, politics, I probably more now because of social media, is a like a nasty, like you have bullets that you have to try to reflect all the time. How did you deal with that as a young man? Because that's a different mindset compared to who you are now.
Well, I would agree and disagree
Okay.
in that the second you lose your passion, I'm leaving this office. I've never lost the passion. I just had a very difficult citizen to deal with, dealing with some social issues.
Right.
If I wasn't passionate, I wouldn't be here. The only thing that's changed, and it's a good point you make about social media today, it was the same way back then. The Sarnia Gazette, was it Paul Blundy, the former mayor, and I ran his last campaign in 1981 for MPP, and he was the MPP. He said he never opened the Gazette without a stiff drink in his hand.
Right.
Because they were tough. I mean, Marcel's paper, in both elections I ran in 80 and 82.
Just over here, yeah.
Yeah. But both elections, I need to talk to you about something. And when a campaign manager hears the candidate wants to talk to you about something, you go, uh-oh.
What's up?
And both were lawsuits that had been libel lawsuits against him. And ironically, the one was from David Bushy.
Oh.
And David Bushy won the lawsuit. And it's a classic, because I was being sued years ago, and the lawyers cited the law on that lawsuit. And it was this. Marcel wrote that David Bushy would stand naked upside down on a Ferris wheel at midnight to get attention. That wasn't the libel. And David's become a good friend, by the way, over the years.
Yes.
Oh, the last part of it was what cost Marcel $43,000.
Wow.
He said, the man needs help. And that was the libel. And that happened in that one. There was another one where he attacked the NDP and called them dangerous men with dangerous minds because they were running a slate for council. That cost him $18,000. So when people say social media is different and difficult, it is. But the atmosphere was like that back then.
Yeah, it's just quicker now, I guess,
quicker.
right?
And that's the sad part.
And keyboard cowboys, I like to call them.
Well, that's a great title.
Yeah.
And it is frustrating as we deal with them. First of all, who am I dealing with? Am I really dealing with Bob in his underwear in the basement?
Well, this is it, right? I think you have to look at the source, so to speak, and there is an education level, and there's different education levels, and also, but it can still hurt, though, Mike.
Oh, it does. It does. It's I always feel, and I will meet with anyone running for council. And I've done that from day one. I always tell them the first day and the last day will be your two best days, and that the reality is this: if you think your reputation's here, you'll find over time, people will question your motives, what you're doing, your abilities, agenda, all those things. Going back to what you said earlier, the key now, so you can do it in 2 seconds. Where before, you had to write a letter to the paper, you did whatever. So it's gotten faster. But the one thing I run into all the time, and it's everywhere, is distorted information. Mm-hmm. I just had a woman tell me that there's no homeless in Alberta. It's not the checking I'm seeing, and not what I'm reading, but it's that. My facts are the facts, and they got to be your facts. And I don't get into those battles anymore. It's not worth it. It's simply, what's your problem, and what can I do to solve it? Sometimes you just want to listen. Many, many times and maybe it's because this place is so open. I answer all my own emails, return my phone calls.
Doors open right now.
Yeah, never shuts. But they know that, and I just had a gentleman that had a terrible situation going on. It's really not a city issue. It's a provincial one with healthcare and his wife and himself and all that. But you do your best to say, okay, someone's listening to you, and this is what you should do. And that, to me, is the principle. So when people come to talk to me about running for council, I always say to them, well, what do you think the job is? And you listen. And, if they give you I want to change the world and city, right. That's fine. That's cliche. But the reality is this. If you've got 1 or 2 things you're passionate about, run with those things and make them your issues. And then you will learn. And I always tell people to get elected. After the first 6 months, it repeats itself. And the issues, every election I've been in, the issue during the election is never the issue you govern on. I'll go back to the pandemic. There was an election just before that. Who could have thought, that I'd be declaring a state of emergency? Who would have thought it would last over a year? Who would have thought, we were meeting every day for a year, and it was punishing on us personally, the team.
Well, just on the time schedule. I mean, it was supposed to be, I call it the longest 2 weeks of our life, right?
True. But I will say this, the problem with it was that has led to the distortion on social media, on everything.
Well, would it be fair to say, Mike, that I made a post the other day, would you choose experience over opinion or opinion over experience? And the reason I put that out there, okay, we'd like a little bit of both, but a lot of times people are putting out what their opinion is, not what the facts are, and they haven't done the research and the backstory. Is that fair?
Oh, definitely during COVID. As soon as I saw the words, I've done my own research.
Yeah. What does that mean?
Yeah, and I have to be honest with you, we had lots of debates during that team, because we're listening to experts. We're trying to make judgments. Some we would not do again. Some the right thing to do.
Yeah.
It was the province directing, and I'll give an example. I was going on CHUK every week with Sue Storr talking about the pandemic stuff. I finally stopped doing it. Respect Sue quite a great deal as a journalist, but I was becoming the spokesman for Doug Ford and his government and their steps. We had nothing. They didn't get our input. They were just doing it.
Yeah.
But that's when I first saw the facts not mattering becoming more rampant in conversations. And to this day, everyone keeps on saying, well, there's a hidden agenda on some of the issues we deal with. My experience is, I always say, look, I can hardly do one agenda, never mind two. Right. So to have that agenda and the other one, it's not what's happening here. But what you need, and again, the basic thing is to keep on responding in a civil manner, even when people aren't civil. And I have lots of examples where they come back later and say, listen, I'm sorry, I was just having a bad day.
Yeah.
But, I get back to everyone personally. I'll get that, oh, I'm sure your assistant will answer this. No. And sometimes it's not a lot of fun, especially if there's a big issue going on. Now, the one thing I won't do anymore, there's a lot of people using this no reply emails, or they're like, just send out 100 or 200. I'm not responding.
Yeah.
If you send me a letter or an email that's personal, I will respond.
I've always gotten a response over the years that I've known you, and it wasn't always necessarily the response I wanted.
Yeah.
And I don't mean that in a bad way. I just mean like that. I could always rely on your honesty and your integrity, right? From some, and I think that's great that you do that, because it's so easy to, like, we could have AI handling Mike's emails and all of that. And
AI scares me, Dave.
Yeah.
It scares me.
You don't see a positive in it at all?
I see a positive, but I'm seeing daily things that aren't factually correct when you get AI.
Well, I can take your video of you talking of this, and I can add in all the words that I want. And he said,
with my voice,
right?
With my voice. So we'll always learn to live with technology. I will say the one thing that's happened. You've been in this office now, what, half an hour doing this? The phone hasn't rang once.
Yeah.
10 years ago, 20 years ago, it's constant. It was constant.
Yeah.
Now it's basically either emails or texts.
Yeah.
Which actually I personally prefer. Not that I don't like talking to people, but the reason I prefer it is because I used to sit here trying to figure, okay, so what is the issue? What's the problem?
Yeah.
Who have you talked to? When I say to them, and most people are really good at this, can you just send me an email? Then I've got their words. So it's their words, what their issue is. So that's important when you're trying to deal. And a lot of the stuff is
it's nice to have to track too, quite honestly. Yes. Well, here it is. You said this. I mean, I still prefer the phone in a sense of that personal thing, that tone, if you will, because we don't all know how to express ourselves in a keyboard. That can cause some big issues.
It does, and we see that. But again, probably 100, 150 emails a day. I respond sometimes in the middle of the night. Shouldn't be doing that. But it's getting back. I'm just saying, look, I'll look into this for you.
Yeah.
And it varies. Say I got someone a journalist wants a quote about Mike Weir, or I've got an issue going on with some affordable housing projects.
Sure.
Or you've got just basic stuff. Someone's fighting with their neighbor. But to me, the second you diminish those things, the second you've lost what the purpose is here is to help people deal with these issues. And again, as you said, they may not like the answer.
Yeah.
And often you'll just say, look, I know this does not meet with your satisfaction. I'll give you an example.
But at least they got a response. Like that. I think, like you pointed that out there, is that's kind of half the battle.
Well, I'll give you a good example. Every year, we're doing more road work and paving in our history. This year and last year, try to go down Confederate,
right.
Try to go over, Michigan right
all
now.
Over.
And it's great.
Great, yeah, it is.
But what we do, in staff every year in the spring, release all the roads that are being paved, right?
Yeah.
I don't usually hear too much from anyone who's getting the road paved. All I hear from all the people is, why am my street not on the list? And the way we're going, we're probably going to get to most of the streets in the next couple of years. But it's a human nature thing, right? And I understand that. So, and we do. Sometimes people come to us with issues. They're pointing out something that's quite correct. It needs to be fixed. Yeah. And that's good. And you appreciate that.
Yeah. Or you get the, that counselor lives on that street. So of course that's why. Yeah. Blah, blah, blah.
Well, I used to get that city plows the north end first.
Right.
And then you hear that from the north end. Then you'd hear it from the south end. the opposite, right? All that stuff. The plan is the plan, and it's based on need. But that's what happens. And so you can filter that. And I've learned stay away from the editorial comments, responding back. Here's the facts. And what I do a lot these days, and I have in the last number of years, is I simply refer to the staff saying, give me your comments. What can we do to fix this problem?
Yeah, right.
And that's not a bad thing.
Yeah. You're coming into 37 years now as mayor, I believe.
So, yeah.
You just had a big round number birthday. If you want to know, you can Google it.
It's no secret. I just turned 70.
Just turned 70 in July, and this is going to sound like a bit of a cliche question. There's some other things in there I still want to talk to you about. Your support of accessibility. I'd like to talk to you about Michael Moore maybe, and Chris Hadfield and relationships you've built. But here's the cliche question: if you could sit your first year as mayor self down and talk about leadership to who you are now, what would you say to that first time mayor?
Well, you learn I don't need to be in every battle.
Right.
And that you learn over time. But I think one of the reasons the public elected me and kept re-electing me, even when things weren't good here economically and things in the 90s, was they knew I was on their side. That's simple, still am. And so you learn over time, and you also learn on how to judge people. And I'm talking about political people.
Yeah.
You also learn on who you want to work with and who you don't want to work
Mm-hmm.
with. And you mentioned some names I've been very blessed with, like David Onley, the late lieutenant governor, we became very close.
Mm-hmm.
Chris Hatfield.
Yeah.
Others that you really appreciate them as individuals. And the fact that they have been supportive or are in contact. I'll give you a good example. Chris was speaking in Australia just a month or two ago, right?
Okay.
He was in Adelaide. So he emails me from Adelaide, said, do you still have any relatives here?
Oh, yeah.
I'm speaking tonight. They can come to the show for
Right.
free. So that, unfortunately, I don't
That's
have
kinda
any
cool,
relatives right there right now.
He thought of you.
Yeah, but it's also the respect. And his father recently died, and Roger, and we developed this incredible friendship. And I don't like to fly.
No?
I don't like to fly. We left Ireland to come to Canada. We had to fly to Scotland and then over here. It was the worst flight of anyone's life.
Oh, wow.
So I've never liked it, but Roger convinced me. He had 30,000 hours as an Air Canada pilot to go up twice. And we had this great relationship. And it wasn't like we met regularly, but I just respected him. And we just had just a couple of weeks ago on Stag Island, there was a very small memorial service for him.
Yeah. About
60 friends from the island, and I was privileged to be invited. So you get to see those things and you appreciate them. And I keep on threatening to write a book. Over the years, there's so many people I've got to work with. Some of the politicians, Paul Blundy, Sadie, Bud Cullen, who trusted me with their careers.
Right.
As politicians. And that is a remarkable endorsement when you're really not sure sometimes what you're doing. Like you don't.
Sure, you're figuring it out as you go.
As you go.
Yeah.
But one thing I did learn through the election process is there's nothing wrong with failing. It's getting back up is key.
Right.
And if you're going to fail and just weep about it, forget it. Learn from it and move on. So that again, it comes with time and maturity. And the other thing that's really interesting, I haven't been a member of the Liberal Party since 1988 when I became the mayor. And I will not go to any functions of any political party. When Bob Ray was Liberal leader, he wanted to meet. I wouldn't go to a Liberal meeting, but I met him separately and had a good discussion. And that happened with a number of other people over the years too. So I'm not partisan. I try to, I have a philosophy, but I'm not there to endorse. I think it was David Peterson, when he was premier, or it was Ray, said to me, so we see you as an equal opportunity offender. In other words, I don't care about the party, that you're the government. I do care about good things for Sarnia. And we've had some tough times. We had our train service cut. We've lost the airport, commercial flyouts. It happened everywhere, but it still hurt us because we're so isolated here geographically. So you learn to keep on trying to, never give up. I mean, Winston Churchill used to say that. Never give up, never give up, never give up.
It's pretty straightforward, really.
I can tell you I fought for 25 years for a detox withdrawal management center here.
Yeah.
And that's now unfolding. There's 24 beds coming to the hospital, going to council soon as this heart hub. And that's a good thing. Really good, where it combines, you have to be clean for 30 days to get in.
Yeah.
And we do have a great place here, Ryan's house. It's named after Ryan, who lost his life to fentanyl. You go there for 30 days, you're clean, you go into this new place, and that for 18 months can take care of you as it relates to housing, mental health, all those things. So we are making progress, but sometimes it's a long journey.
You've learned a lot, for sure. I mean, is we going to see the book?
Well, I keep on threatening to write it, and I have.
Do you have to wait for some people to die before you can do that, or?
Well, that's one of the factors. I don't want to hurt anyone.
Yeah.
And for example, I've got 22 years of newspaper, the open mic column, right?
Right.
And it was meant to be a humorous column. I always appreciate. London Free Press said it was more humorous than the Dave Barry, who's a great comedian writer. And I tried to keep it light. I tried to stay away from serious. If you follow me on social media, Twitter or whatever, you will rarely see anything self-promotion. You will rarely see me in any of the pictures. And there was an event I did yesterday, Women in Trades, great initiative. I would urge you to interview Rachel if you haven't. And they're bringing women into the trades. But if you see the posts, I'm there, but I'm not in the pictures.
Yeah.
I don't like that. And I spent 3 months before I went on social media following other politicians, and it was I. And it was also self-promotion. So you learn not to. I just posted a little while ago, I was at Sacred Heart School, the new one, rebuilt today. And the Bishop of London was there, and it was a very inspirational event. I call it the Spirit of Sarnia. That's what I like to do.
Yeah.
I can,
Well, I do follow your tweets and your social media, your tweets, the famous final sunset of the day, and, the Duke d'Orleans, or whatever you can point out. For someone to say that you don't have a sense of humor wouldn't know you, because it's in all of you. Like, they make me smile. Sometimes I giggle and I go, "Really, Mike?" And then other days I go, "Okay, that's a good one."
See, I'm glad you're getting the jokes, because there's days I'll post things like, "I need new writers." And then people are always got writers. No, he doesn't. Obviously, I don't.
You do all that yourself.
I do it all myself.
Yeah.
And again, it's good. And so when I lost the open mic column, because I basically killed the paper, it was 22 years of running it, and they used to call it the damn column around here, because I agonized over every word. And humor, I have to say, even if it's offered again, I probably wouldn't do it, because humor now is so different. What I was doing versus the.
Are we too easily offended these days, Mike?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
do you have to? How much thought goes into I know for my social media, like, sometimes I care about, like, I'm not trying to. I didn't wake up to say, I think today I'll try to offend Mike. Maybe I end up offending Mike, but that wasn't my intention.
No, and I think that's the key, that if you're not intending, I mean, sometimes people misunderstand what I post. I understand that. Sometimes I don't fully understand what I post. But I'm not out there to hurt people.
Right.
I mean, we got rage masters out there in the community that's all they want to do is pump their own tires and attack people. And I think public still, despite all the changes that's gone in society, still want decency and civility. So what you try to do is it just continue. I'll give you an example of Canada Day pre-COVID, where I posted, if you wear red and mention my name, you get into the Canada Park for free. I need better writers, because all these people, I didn't know you had to pay. I don't have any red.
Yeah, way to go.
Yeah, so you do learn that, and you learn that. And again, I like observational humor, and I love humor. I'm just a great, depending on what's like. I don't like vulgar humor, but I like humor, and the Irish part of me is that the Irish have a great ability to laugh at themselves.
Yeah.
And as they say, take the mickey out of anyone who thinks the tallest poppy. Yeah. To take the mickey out of that person.
Yeah. So you better come down here, fella.
Yeah, and bring it down to you're not special. But yeah, so it's I have to say, I mean, at one point I was going to stop the sunset pictures. I lived downtown for 40 years, but I got all this pushback from people that we live out of town. We love those pictures. We love them. And I always try to find.
I live in town and I love those pictures.
Well, only a small number of us are privileged to be on the waterfront.
That's right.
And the other thing, I brought this character back. I killed it years ago, Uncle Festus. But people like the character. And the good thing is, Uncle Festus can say stuff that I can't say.
Right. From the man who's usually wrong.
Yes. My cynical friend, who, by the way, was a real person. My cynical friend who wishes to remain anonymous.
Yeah.
Bob. Yeah. And he was the Kramer of Sarnia, and a very funny guy. We dated two sisters. That's how we met, which sounds like a country song, doesn't it? We dated two sisters and all this stuff. But a great whimsical sense of humor. And I think that's the key word, whimsical.
Yeah, I like that word.
And these days, if you can make people feel good or just give them a smile, and what I do every day, which some don't understand, I don't write the cartoons. Every morning I post the Toronto Star cartoon. Every day at the end of the day, I post the Toronto Sun cartoon. Some of them I agree with, some of them don't. Some are funny, some aren't funny.
Give credit to the author,
yes.
Leo.
Yeah, well, you have to.
Yeah.
Because you just don't screenshot and do it. So what you try to do is share stuff that may brighten people's lives, especially in the depressing, with all the issues we've got with the economy and homelessness and addictions and everything else. It's tough out there for people. And they need to know that it's not everything is doom and gloom.
No,
that's what I try to do.
And that's honestly, that's one of the takeaways I get from. If I don't see a tweet, I think something's wrong. Just so you know.
Right.
But
I do know I overtweet and I overpost, and I'm trying to withdraw management from that.
Yeah, no, I don't think you do. I think
it's the time.
Maybe the time of day. I don't know.
But I get to do things that I said I was at the Women in Trades event yesterday at Sacred Heart Church today, or school. I get to, and especially with all respect to the media, with the shrinkage in the media.
Yeah.
Especially on the events I do on the weekend. Like last weekend it was Parkinson Walk. This week it's Terry Fox, and there's a Battle of Britain event. The following week it's the Kidney Foundation. Because of the shrinkage in the media, it's not their fault. I can post those and publicize them, and then let people know what's happening in their community, because they're not getting it right now. Most of the national media and local media are crime stories, and that is fine, because you can't deny
that's what sells too, right? Like there's that piece, and that's one of the things I love about my media. I don't work at the radio station, just so
everyone thinks you do.
And that's fine. It's got me to some cool concerts. I don't have a button pusher, if you will, or a puppeteer that says you have to do this story and that story. And for me, like as you know, years ago, I would live stream to council meetings, and then I would do interview, and then I was like, there's enough of this already. And that's when my shift focuses on the positive, because I've lived here all my life, Mike. I never left. I went away one summer because she was really nice, but I never had a reason to leave Sarnia. There's so much here. A friend of mine would call it the Southwestern Ontario Riviera. The water, the beaches, the downtown, and the downtown scene, its challenges over the years. But at the end of the day, Sarnia is its own unique planet. I like to say, and there is a lot of good positive things here. And if we can't focus on the positive, what's the point?
Well, that's what disappoints me about the rage masters who live in the community and want it to be broken, want it not to work. And we're struggling now with some issues, but we're struggling like every other city.
But we had issues in the 70s.
Oh, yes. I mean, when I first moved downtown, it was the Wild West at night.
Yeah.
There was 4 or 5 strip clubs. One of my first things as mayor, we brought in a bylaw to control them when they went out of business. And
you couldn't have a new one.
Yeah. And that's
I used to work at Mr. Mike's Variety Club.
Oh, so you know what
So I get it.
I think it was nicknamed the Bucket of Blood.
Something like that.
But I will say
kick and stab, I believe it was.
Well, the thing though, I want to go back to all the crime coverage. That is fine if it's balanced by an offset.
Yeah.
That's the way it used to be. It's not that way anymore. So you're dealing with the reality. And the good thing with social media, at least you get to put some of those things out there. But downtown it's if you've been to London or Windsor or some of the other places recently, they are struggling big time compared to what we do have issues.
There's several issues that we could talk about, but it can be dealt with though, right? Like It's not. I feel safe walking downtown. Now, is that fair for me to say as a guy? But I don't know if a female would say the same thing or not. I don't know.
I can tell you my female friends say the same thing. They feel safe.
Yeah.
And last Friday, I was downtown. I go down the ups and downs around 5 or 6, a few drinks for the table there. It'll give me all the wisdom on all the things I did wrong all week, which I always deeply appreciate.
Mike, have you ever thought, Yeah.
But last Friday night, the downtown was teeming with people on First Friday. Sideways, couldn't get in there, all around the bad dog.
First Friday.
So I think people are relatively comfortable. The people that don't feel comfortable sometimes never came here. Or there's a group out there right now that just demonize anyone that's on the wrong side of life right now.
Yep.
And yes, it's difficult to deal with. And I deal with people that desperately need help. But you've got to include all the community and try to get them to a better place. That's why this Heart Hub means so much to me. But there's so many times though you see like this report. I'll decide whether I'm going to post it or not. There's a report out today, the 5 most expensive cities in Ontario to live in,
Okay.
and the 5 least expensive cities, and Sarnia is on the least expensive list.
Yep.
I know if I post that, it'll be negativity. Because maybe it may not seem.
Post it anyway.
Yeah. Well, thanks for that. I'll take your advice and see what happens to me. But it's that the naysayers will be there anyhow. And I don't write those stories. That's what they've reported. And you can argue it any which way. Well, maybe it's, for whatever reason, it's a cheaper place to live. But we're seeing that. The vacancy rate here is really skyrocketed, which is good news. Maybe not for landlords, but it starts to open the market up again so people can get affordable, decent rental accommodation. So all these things, and it's a good, healthy debate to have in a community. And we're going through some of those debates now. But it's some people's facts aren't the real facts, and you have to deal with that, right? And there's no point in some cases arguing. Just
and you know, Ben Shapiro
yes.
would say, facts don't care about your feelings,
True,
right?
True.
And it's not that we don't care about your issue, but your issue is yours, right? And everybody's got one, and theirs should take. Mine's more important than yours, and for whatever reason, right? So to filter, that's what I call Google is the graffiti wall of the world.
Okay.
We got to filter out all the crap to get to the point and go, you know, that's a nice opinion, and I'm sorry that you whatever, but here are the facts, and this is what we have to deal with, and we have budgets and everything, and we don't need to talk about budgets because that's not fun.
And I've used this line. I think the media finally caught on for years. When I'm asked about whatever the budget, and I've been through on council probably we're talking like 40 years of budgets, and they always used to ask, "What's this budget like?" I said, "It's the toughest one ever."
Right.
It's the standard response, and it's not being patronizing or dismissive. No, it's just everyone. A budget is different. We have a big deficit this year, and we're going to have to struggle with that. But everyone is different, has its own. And then, what are the community priorities? Right now, my priority is to keep the community stable. Get through what appears to be a recession.
Yeah.
And that's going to be 1 or 2 years of just devastating damage. And we've lost jobs here from the tariffs. And what we're really losing is from people is confidence. Should I buy that new house? Because I don't know if my job will be here or my kid's job will be here in a year or two.
People are holding on to their money a little bit more. Yeah. Those that have it. Right?
True. And so what I'm seeing now is, there's someone working on something right now, a project bomb. They see me as the shepherd. You're the shepherd trying to get people through the desert. And sometimes it's a little easier than other times. But people also need to have hope. And my view has always been that mayors are merchants of hope. Mm-hmm. We can identify problems, but we also need to give you a path to get to a better place. It's that simple.
It's I've often quoted the Shawshank Redemption, right? You know, hope is a good thing, and sometimes it's the only thing.
True.
And people do need that, and they need that in their leadership. And
I will say, this is not being partisan. I think that is why Mark Carney right now is in the right place for Canadians. They just feel he's an adult in the room. He's got a good background. And I think a good example of the way things used to be in Ottawa, back when I worked there. Once Poilievre lost his seat, he could have stalled that by-election for at least a year. He didn't. He said, you get a member to step down, I will call the by-election meeting, which he did. And Poilievre's now back in the House. That's the sort of respect you want to see from leadership. You'll still have your battles. That's not going to go away. But he wasn't afraid of having him in the House, and I see why in some cases. But the fact is, he could have played games with him, and he didn't. And that's the maturity I think people want.
I like that you brought that up, because now that you got me thinking about that, I remember when that happened, and it gave me a little more respect for him that I maybe didn't have as much. And like, boy, oh boy,
I'm not sold yet on. I think he's the right man right now, but I'm not so sure when they bring this austerity budget and some of the other things happen. Yeah. And I think he overplayed the tariff issue, because now it looks like, okay, got your elbows down. As a mayor that's very involved in this issue with the Border City mayors, I always felt we should have kept them up. Take the pain, keep going, but change things. But I've always given them I'll give them the test of time. You all need that, right? You need time.
Yeah. Boy, oh boy. I want to come back. There's so many things. I know we'll run out of time, but Michael Moore. And this is, I don't know your beliefs, laws of the universe, religious, or whatever that is, but I believe timing is everything. The fact that we're sitting here today, It kept coming to me, when I saw you back again in June, I think it was at BGC Day, and then it would just seem to. And then I sat down the other day after you had agreed to this interview on my Tubi, I think it was, and Bowling for Columbine just popped up, and I was like, "Oh, I think Mike's in this."
There's the picture with Michael Moore at the
Right?
Toronto Film Festival.
What was he like? He's probably not going to watch, so be honest.
I'd say he's a visionary. He's quite scattered.
Yeah.
His former wife was the business person.
Okay.
I only got invited down, and it's ironic because the Toronto Film Festival is underway now, right? I was invited down. I got a phone call on the Friday night from this producer saying, "Michael wants you to come to Toronto tomorrow to see the film," because it was a debut at the Toronto Film Festival in Canada. And I said, "Well, why?" And keep in mind, they were in here for 4 hours filming.
Yeah.
But they never told me I was in the film.
Because
the film was basically wrapped up. And a few months later, I see it was at Cannes, and then it was coming to Toronto.
For 60 seconds of...
Yeah, he calls me. And again, I didn't know it was in the film. So they call me, and I go down there. And the reason they said they called was because when they showed the film in Denver, Columbine, right around there, there was applause for my remarks.
Oh.
About a good, just society. And that's the remarkable thing, as you'd appreciate in the media. I was in here for 4 hours, intense 4 hours.
Yeah.
And then we're getting up, we're walking out, and we're down where the reception area is. And I went into this speech that was the big one in the movie. It was all spontaneous. It got me, and I was ready to roll. So that's what people were reacting to. But it was a marvel. I meet him at the Hyatt Hotel, and his wife, and his dad. And there's 3 limos, and we're in the middle one, and he's in the third one. And we go to the film. And there's like 1,000 people in the theater. And then when I show up, get out of the limo, all the media lights are on and stuff, they all shut down.
Oh.
But then we went
the mayor's here.
Yeah. And keep in mind, there was more of a relationship. I'll condense it for your viewers, is that I went to it. It went on to win an Academy Award. He called me the voice of reason, which no one's ever called me. And but then a few years later, he did Sicko, another movie, which debuted in London. He invited me to London. And then in between, he'd made some comments about Stephen Harper as the prime minister. So it's back in that era, right?
Right.
And there was a group of young conservatives that laid charges, or tried to, under the Canada Election Act, that he was trying to influence the American election.
Oh, yeah.
So I thought about it for a few days, thinking, okay, how do I get this? How do I deal with this? So I made him an honorary member, citizen of Sarnia. So he'd be a citizen and have the full rights, as we raise his taxes, to bitch and moan and be a Canadian.
Right.
Well, he loved it. And that thing went away because people were laughing at them. And so it was good and interesting, but I say scattered. He's the guy with the ideas. His wife brought the focus to them.
Right.
And I will say, I think Bowling was probably the best movie he made.
Yeah,
and
I agree.
And the reason it keeps coming up is because that was the first mass shooting.
Yes.
And if you see the numbers in the States, it's what, 1 o'clock? Have we had one yet? Probably. But he identified the issue. And it was whoever thought, it made a tremendous amount of money. It won an Academy Award. Who would have ever thought, hey, what are you doing Saturday night? You want to go see a movie about gun control?
Right.
It was funny. It was pointed. And actually,
you even got Charlton Heston in there.
You got Charlton Heston there.
Charlton didn't like him, but
well, the thing that always stood out in my mind when people say, what was your favorite scene in there? I like Marilyn Manson.
Yeah.
When they asked him, what would you have said to the kids? And he said, I would have listened to them.
I totally agree.
I thought it nailed what it was all about.
Really did.
So it was a great experience. And
it comes back to that you responding, or politicians, or anybody in a high position responding. Just a response. I just want to be heard. And I want to feel like, even if you don't agree with my opinion, it matters to you.
Yes. I think that's a good point. And again, it was an entertaining film.
Yeah.
I heard literally from hundreds and hundreds of Canadians outside of Canada, in Europe, Australia, people I knew in Ohio.
Oh, yeah.
They're in the theater, and all of a sudden I'm up there on the screen. But it as Canadians, which we need right now, it made them feel really good about Canada. Mm-hmm. Not that it wasn't a bit over the top about we don't lock our doors and all that stuff, but it had some great humor about just Canadians and what we are and who we are.
Well, the kids at Taco Bell said it too, right? We just maybe we come out and cuff you around a little bit, but then we, and as adults, we've often said, we'll go meet out by the monkey bars.
Yeah.
And then grown adults do it, and then we go have a beer after and talk about something else.
It's the gun control issue.
Yeah.
And I had the American Consul General here the other day, And we get a lot of people coming into the office here to want to talk to, and I always just tell them the two differences between Sarnia and Port Huron: gun control and healthcare.
Mm-hmm.
Healthcare is not perfect, but anyone can go to that doctor and hospital without.
We are unarmed Americans with healthcare.
That's right.
I guess,
Yeah.
right? You know.
But
this is the same guy too, Mike, that predicted, and I don't want to get you all worked up coming near the end here, but this is the same guy that predicted that Trump would be president, and
he was dead on. That was the first time,
and he got laughed at big time, and they were like, "What?" And yeah.
Well, I always remember one time he called me here after making him an honorary citizen, and I think we were doing an event in Toronto, and he the film festival, and they asked him, "Are you worried about your personal safety? Are you worried about someone shooting you?" And he said, "No, I'm more worried about the 1,200 Big Macs I've eaten in the last 10 years," which made the point.
Right.
I think his credibility over time sort of diminished, and but at the same, that was a very powerful movie. I was just a few years ago down at Strathroy. They had me there for the day to speak to classes about Bowling for Columbine, because it's still relevant. It's still the points being made there have not diminished. In fact, as I said earlier, they've gotten worse.
Yeah, I want to get to the accessibility and inclusivity. Accessibility especially has always been, where does that come from? Is there a personal reason in there, or that you really advocate for that? Or
well, it's a good question. About 20 years ago, I've always tried to find things outside of what I do.
Yeah.
And in this case, and I've been working very closely with a gentleman, Bob Van Sickle, who my dad mentored at Community Living. And we, 2012, Sarnia, got the award by the Human Resource Directors of Canada for being the most inclusive hiring company, city. Yep. First time a government's got it, because of our student program with Community Living. We beat Vancouver, we beat Toronto. And so I'd been working with David Onley, the late Lieutenant Governor, who was the first disabled Lieutenant Governor. And he formed this champions group, and I was the first. But I'd already been doing it for years, and that's why he brought me in as a champion. There's some marvelous people there we're still working with, and I'm just got invited to give a speech in Hamilton a few weeks from now on the issue. From day one, David Onley was just an incredible, Lieutenant Governor, newscaster for 30 years. You want to Google Rick Mercer and David Onley to see his sense of humor.
Yeah.
Is that he became more militant as I did. It's a human rights issue. It's not a patronizing issue. It's not just putting in a ramp and hiring little Timmy to work for the summer. It's much more than that. In Ontario, in 2025 was supposed to be guaranteed by all the three parties 25 years ago, we'd be fully accessible. We're not even close.
No.
But where I come back to answer your question, to me it's a human rights issue, it's a civil rights issue. And if you look out there, and COVID was a good example, people with disabilities, et cetera, are an untapped workforce. And they're there and educated, available, but they got to get through the door and they got to be selected. And that's what I've been promoting and pushing for many, many years. And not just the lip service I get from a lot of the political people. It's what are we doing? And we had David Onley down there with 200 business people come out a number of years ago. And the whole point was about hiring. But then we tracked, did you hire? Why didn't you hire? Because you want results. I just don't want photo ops.
Yep.
So anyhow, it's a human rights issue.
Okay.
And you know what? The society ages. 40% of us will have some sort of disability. And you know what? It's funny because there was a huge squabble here 10 years ago about calling out, having us on the buses, what the stop was, on the elevators, what the stop is. That benefits everyone. And it's the same with when you leave here, 95% of the people that come in here or out of here leave on the ramp, the accessibility ramp. It's there for everyone. It's not just
you know what? I walk down and walk up it.
Yep.
I don't
That's
use
what I do every
day.
But it's a question of some people fear accessibility, but they shouldn't. It's just taking down barriers that maybe shouldn't have been there in the first place. So it's a real passion for me because it's outside. I don't look for recognition from it. But
no, I think it's
been very good.
That you do it.
Yeah, because it also says we can. And I'll tell you, all those young people that went through community living, who were challenged, and spent a summer with us and with their coaches, that's on their resume. And then with the very innovative program at the college at the day, they could go to college instead of what used to happen. 18, you just go on social assistance, disability payments, instead of finding something productive. But two, I'll give you a good example. Former police chief of London, Brad Duncan, was a great guy. He was part of our champions group. He was trying to find ways to hire in the police department, which is a little bit more challenging.
Yeah, it
right?
would be.
Well, they came up with this with the agreement of the association in London. There was a young man who they hired to be the one that destroyed their records. He wasn't interested in their records. He wasn't interested in seeing what's on the record. Like, he just and so they brought him in, and that's the job he does, and I believe he still does it.
Nice.
So we gave him a place, and this gentleman I worked for many years, he's well known across the country, Mark Wafer. He owned 13 Tim Hortons. He hired over 130, 150, 180 people with disabilities, including Down syndrome. I mentioned that for a reason. And we do a lot of speaking engagements, or we used to before COVID. And there's two people in his organization that both had Down syndrome. They met each other there, fell in love, and they bought a condo together.
Oh, yeah.
Like, you know, if that wasn't for Mark and that opportunity, it's probably just on disability payments. So
we're all just people at the end of the day.
And part of I talk about the language of disability, which always bothers me. They always talk about in the workplace, accommodating people. Well, damn it, we accommodate everyone in the workplace.
No kidding.
What time you come in, what time you go out.
Yeah.
You know, whatever.
What clothes to wear.
Yeah. So don't use it as an excuse. And people, we can't accommodate. Yes, you can. Yeah. And so it's been good to be able to have that platform on that issue. And again, I just got a speaking engagement at McMaster to talk about this issue. But that doesn't stop me from doing other stuff. Just another speaking engagement in Toronto, if timing is the issue, is just after the G7 conference, they want to have a smaller conference with a number of people like myself to talk about tariffs and trade, and I get to talk about Sarnia. Fifth Estate was rerunning a show the other day from earlier this year. They ran a number of times, which featured Sarnia and myself talking about the relationship. I was on CNN a few months ago, again, talking about the relationship. ABC TV with George Stephanopoulos just a week ago. So what it does, it gives you a platform, and it gives you more credible, because I'm just some small town mayor. But they can go and look at your history. They can Google Michael Moore, or they can just look at your background and say, okay, that could be an interesting guest. And I get to promote Sarnia, because that's what it's all about.
Yeah.
Sarnia.
Well, and you weren't sure that I could get an hour out of
True.
you.
I apologize.
Right? No, it's perfect.
I apologize.
And honestly, Mike, like there's so much more. We haven't gotten to Chris Hadfield yet. We haven't gotten to if you're going to sign on the dotted line again to run again for mayor, which I suspect you will.
I'd never make that decision till when I need to.
To like 30 minutes before the deadline.
Look at that. I got too much. Well, if you're going to run against me, then run. I can't reinvent myself. And after my first election, you know what the theme was in the next election? It's time for a change.
Right.
That is, I can't escape that. But then I have to say to people, do you want stability? Do you want proven leadership? It's tried, tested, and true. I can still offer that, but I'll make that decision next year. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And
but I do apologize for saying,
no,
we don't have an hour to talk.
No, you said only half an hour. And I'm like, no, I need an hour, Mike.
Okay.
Like, that's what it is. And, I remember saying to you one time, I don't always agree with you. And you said, well, we're not supposed to, and that's okay. Well, we can still still have a relationship. You've helped me on a personal side. I've been in here recently just saying, and I'm like, I don't want to bother the guy, but like,
okay.
No, but it was okay. I didn't feel like I was intruding on your time. And I'm grateful for that, and grateful however it's looked over 37 years of you being here in this office. So thank you very much. Now, you know what I'm going to say. I'm going to say click the like, click the love button for Mike, and click the share button. It's the most important button. And as always, that's all the time I got for you this week. Have a great week and an even better weekend. We'll see you next time right here in the show. Bye for now.